Today we're venturing into the distant past of retro gaming horror, spotlighting two groundbreaking titles from 1983 that dared to bring cinematic horror to the pixelated realm. Prepare for a bone-chilling dive into the eerie era of 8-bit horror. The first console I ever owned and even played was the Atari 2600. In these early days of video gaming, when pixels were scarce and narrative simplistic, a few audacious games emerged from the shadows, daring to venture into the realm of horror. Among these pioneers, Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre stood as harbingers of terror amidst a sea of pixels, marking the inception of a genre that would later haunt the gaming industry for decades to come. Today, we delve into gaming history and unravel the eerie beginnings of these iconic horror adaptations, examining how they dared to scare amidst a world of pixels. Before we look at the games, it's fitting to first look at the films that inspired them. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, directed by Tobe Hooper and released on October 1st, 1974, unleashed a new kind of terror with its raw, visceral depiction of horror. The film's antagonist, Leatherface, a chainsaw-wielding maniac wearing a mask made of human skin, struck terror into the hearts of audiences. The gritty narrative follows a group of friends who fall prey to Leatherface and his deranged family while on a road trip in rural Texas. The relentless pace and haunting atmosphere of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, coupled with its documentary-style realism, birthed a horrifying narrative that was ripe for adaptation into the interactive realm of video games, giving players a chance to step into the blood-stained boots of Leatherface. The grim portrayal of Leatherface's gruesome actions, alongside the eerie, desolate Texas backdrop, created an atmosphere that left audiences both terrified and enthralled. The film's minimalistic yet effective approach to horror opened doors to a new kind of storytelling that was ready to be explored in the gaming world. John Carpenter's Halloween released on October 25th, 1978. It wasn't merely a film, it was a cultural shockwave that forever altered the landscape of horror cinema. It introduced the world to Michael Myers, the masked terror of Haddonfield, Illinois, whose faceless evil left audiences on the edge of their seats. The plot revolves around Michael Myers, who, at the tender age of 6, murders his sister on Halloween night and is institutionalized. 15 years later, he escapes and returns to his hometown to wreak havoc once again, targeting the young babysitter Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis and her friends. The sinister character of Michael Myers, with his emotionless mask and relentless pursuit of his victims, became an emblem of faceless terror, laying fertile ground for a video game adaptation that sought to encapsulate the relentless dread that pervaded the town of Haddonfield. Halloween didn't just scare audiences, it introduced a new level of on-screen horror and suspense that set new standards for the genre, and its eerie soundtrack, composed by Carpenter himself, became an iconic element of horror film scores. Now that we know a little about the films, let's now have a look at how these games were brought to life all the way back in 1983. We'll look at the game company that created them, and then the games themselves. The audacious venture to adapt these iconic horror tales into video games was embarked upon by a lesser-known maverick in the gaming industry, Wizard Video Games. Established by B-movie horror director Charles Band, Wizard Video was a haven for the unconventional and the macabre. Their affinity for the bizarre and the dark made them the perfect crucible for the birth of horror gaming. Wizard's video quest was not merely to create games, but to extend the terror of the silver screen to the flickering glow of CRT monitors, immersing gamers in a digital realm of horror and dread that beckoned them to confront fear in an entirely new medium. In March 1983, amid a storm of controversy, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game carved its way into the gaming world. This game was a daring deviation from the norm, plunging players into the bloodstained boots of Leatherface. The objective was horrifyingly simple: chase down victims across a pixelated landscape to score points, reflecting the grisly narrative of the film. The gameplay was a test of nerves as players navigated through fields and obstacles, revving their chainsaw to catch the fleeing victims. However, the game's fuel mechanic added a layer of strategy. Your chainsaw's fuel was limited, and every swing drained it further, urging players to strategize their gruesome hunt. The game's graphic content made it a subject of controversy, with many retailers refusing to stock it, and some even offering exchanges for a less violent game. Looking back, it's actually shocking that this game was actually made. Those invincibility cheats that the children NPCs use in every game today, not here. This was a bold attempt at horror-themed gameplay during a time when such themes were rare in video games. That high-pitched sound can only be the screams of your victims, that eerie feeling of chasing them down in a pixelated yet grim world, a chilling precursor to the horror game genre we know today. October 1983 saw the release of Halloween, a game that juxtaposed the dread of its predecessor, casting players as a babysitter tasked with saving children from the relentless pursuit of Michael Myers. The gameplay was a tense cat-and-mouse chase, as players navigated the pixelated halls of the in-game house, guiding the children to safe rooms while avoiding the murderous Michael Myers. Every encounter with Myers was a heart-pounding experience, as a haunting tune that played with each life lost ramped up the tension. An intriguing aspect of the game was its depiction of violence. When caught by Myers, a brief, gruesome animation played, pushing the boundaries of what was deemed acceptable in video games at the time. Players and critics often remark about the game's chilling atmosphere and the relentless tension of evading Michael Myers, emphasising its ability to evoke fear, despite the limitations of the hardware. The simplistic yet eerie melody, the minimalist graphics, and the ever-present threat of Michael Myers are often highlighted as elements that contributed to the game's fearful ambience, showcasing how Halloween managed to encapsulate the dread of its cinematic counterpart in a primitive digital format. For me, the eeriest part of this game is the music. It still sends chills down my spine. Both Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre games were met with a maelstrom of public outcry and controversy upon their release. Parents and advocacy groups were alarmed by the game's graphic content, deeming them inappropriate for young audiences. The pixelated gore and violent gameplay were new to the gaming world, igniting debates on the impact of violent video games on young minds. Retailers too were cautious, with some refusing to stock the games on their shelves. The controversy surrounding these games echoed the public discourse of the time, reflecting a societal unease with the melding of interactive media and graphic horror. The uproar, however, also added a layer of infamy to these titles, etching them deeper into the history books. The legacy of Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre games is profound. They broke the mold, embracing horror at a time when the industry was still finding its narrative footing. They proved that games could evoke fear, suspense, and a sense of impending doom, much like their film counterparts. Me, personally, I get more immersed and more terrified playing games such as these than watching the films themselves. These early games were not just mere entertainment, they were a bold statement, a testament to the endless narrative possibilities within the realm of gaming. The journey from the blocky, monochrome terror of Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre to today's hyper-realistic horror games is a thrilling testament to the power of gaming as a medium to evoke fear and excitement. And as we anticipate the next scare around the corner in the gaming world, we honour the pioneers that dared to scare. Be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this spooky journey, and subscribe for more retro tales. Until next time, stay spooky.